Brakat Yahweh, Brakat Yahushai, Brakat Yahweh, Brakat Yahushai, Brakat Yahweh, Brakat Yahweh, Bashim Yahushai, Bashim, Chakodash. Double honor to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone that rule well. Salutations to the hopeful elect out there, Joachim to Zadakim that do this thing in the utmost truth and sincerity. I'm the priest Shaman. This week's topic is going to be concerning owning firearms. Concerning owning firearms, right? I was watching the elder Zakba out in South Carolina, and from when I was watching the video, he said also a lot of brothers did lesson on that photograph going around where you had these Israelites taking, like, it looked like it was pictures with guns, but it was very, one, incriminating, and two, it looked extremely worldly. It really looked like just niggas with fringes on, right? Very unwise. And I'm just lambacking off these brothers, concerning owning firearms. If you do own a firearm, Apostles always just said, make sure your thing is legal, don't do anything illegal. Damn sure don't be posting your shit all over social media. That's completely foolish. But like brothers are saying, there's no outright law inhibiting you from buying a gun. And the reason I also wanted to touch on this topic was somebody at my job, he gave me this permit thing to get your firearm in New York. I'm not gonna go ahead and get any firearms, and if I did get any firearms, I'm not gonna disclose that out there, As far as I know, the apostle says, look, just make sure your stuff is legal or whatever. You won't get outright banished for doing something like that in Great Millstone. And earning your own personal firearms, you might have your own different reasons to have a firearm or not. But with that said, let me go to 1 Corinthians. Let's go to 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians 6 and 12. Because there's one thing my mother always told me about owning a firearm is when some people are in their most heightened emotions, they might do something they'll highly regret if they had the weapon, right? You always hear people about some people get murdered in arguments, right? Or somebody is at a point of stress they can't take and try to delete themselves, or all these things that if you didn't have it, you'd probably endure the situation and see a different possible outcome, right? So that's the thing with it too. And then some people don't feel comfortable sleeping in a house with somebody that owns it. You might have a wife, she might not be okay with that. Your kids might feel uncomfortable. There's different downsides, all right? But this is our 1 Corinthians 6 and 12. It says, all things are lawful unto me, but all things are not expedient, right? So it is lawful, or rather, let me say it's not unlawful to own a weapon to defend yourself, all right? But in certain situations, especially how those individuals have their firearms, it's definitely not experienced. It's 100% unwise, and it gives the appearance that that's what your trust is in, right? Because you could have a gun and the gun could jam. I've even seen certain videos where the gun blow up in somebody's faces and the metal ricochet and damage you, scar you. So don't make that your trust. Don't make that like that's my deliverance, because shit could kick and you don't know where the hell you'll be. You might not even be close to your firearm. You see? But we, for the most part, we're counting on Yahweh Bashim Yahushai to work miracles in that days, because we know even if every brother was to, like, let's say, purchase a firearm, that don't mean shit. Like the elder was saying in the video, they got fucking tactic dogs with machine guns on them. Like, what really can you get accomplished with that in terms of like overtaking anything, you know. If you do get a firearm, I'll definitely say it's use it as a means of defense, not offense, because you're not taking the so-called white man down with that approach, you know. All that have come before with that approach have failed. All things are lawful unto me, but all things are not expedient. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be brought under the power of any. Right. There's just certain things you don't do. You know, that's definitely one of them. You know, getting firearms and broadcasting upon social media. Like, there's no law. I remember Elder Manatazak said this. There's no law against drinking bleach, right? But you don't do it because it's not expedient. So we're not going to come in that step. We're not going to broadcast anybody to come in that step. That's only going to incriminate yourself. We don't advise posting videos of you on a gun range and all that type of shit, because look what happened to this dude Andrew Tate, right? He is a very intelligent man. He had a lot of success, but he also recorded himself. I wouldn't say doing criminal activities, nothing's proven, but stuff that they could use against them, right? And we don't want to do that. You know, our videos, you know, every video we tell brothers, look, you know, this is Yahweh Shah's program, that Yahweh Shah is going to take this man down. We're not going to do anything pursuant to the book of Romans, the 13th chapter on down. The best bet is just be law-abiding citizens. Pay your taxes, don't get in trouble, comply with the police. If in terms of they're telling you to move, you know, when you're teaching, and you know, and that's just the wisdom that the Lord said we should deal with, right? We should move as serpents and as sheep, you know, wise and humble. Because we're not in the position of wolves, you know, we're not in the position to be predatory in any sense, you know. That's not what the Lord put us here to be, you know. I'm gonna go to a classic scripture, very powerful scripture, but it's a classic, a very powerful scripture. I want to read it. I mean, I have it memorized in my head, but I'm gonna try my best now to read during these lessons, these transits, and not just quote, right? Proverbs 3:5, it says, trust in the Lord with all thy heart. Heart in the Hebrew is lav, which is your mind, and your mind is also your spirit. So you should be putting your spirit and faith in Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shah. You know, what those guys did, it looked like they were glorifying the weaponry more than the Lord, if anything, you know? Like, that's going to be their means to salvation, you know? And even if you want to say, like the elder said, even if you want to say you was some Judas Maccabees type stuff, you know, well, they got crushed, right? So eventually, so that's definitely not the route. If that was the route, the Lord would have told us the route. In fact, Yahweh Shah said, when the enemy come down on us, flee into the mountains, right? When Roman persecution came, the ones that listened to Yahweh Shah and fled Jerusalem into the wilderness, into Africa, survived it. But the Sakari, who not only were on the side of fighting the Romans and having swords and stuff, they burned all the food storage. There's an account where the Sakari during the siege, or the Dagermen, burned the food storage that we had to eat for the siege. In other words, telling the people, let's fight. Like, fuck trying to lean on this food or whatever, let's go out and fight the Romans, you know, which was a failing effort, you know. Because it's nothing for the Lord to deliver us through battles, and that's the route. If for example, with Gideon, not only did the Lord tell them to go fight Gideon, he also said, look, cut the numbers down. You know, it was down to 300 just to find out not one of them would even lift a finger. So the Lord could, if the Lord said, look, man, it's going to be 1,000 men with weaponry in that day and defeat Esau and shit, that's what we'd be doing. But that's not what it's about. It's about 12,000 prophets, which is a part of the elect of the nation of Israel, prophesying the downfall, and pursuant to Zephaniah 3:8, waiting upon the Lord to come back and deliver us. Proverbs 3:5, trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thy own understanding. So, as it is written in the book of Sirach, the 3rd chapter, in the 14th verse, many are deceived by their own vain opinion. So, your mind and your heart might tell you, you know what, man, I'm going to gear up, I'm going to buckle up, these motherfuckers come down the door, I'm going to come double guns play. That's how niggas like to shoot, like 2 guns to the side, like what they see on movies and shit. Or they might do this, you know, not even properly trained on how to use a firearm, just based on what they see in like fictitious forms of media, right? So that's not how the Lord wants us to be. That's just not the route. If it was, that's what Yahweh Shem Yahushua would say. You know, that the weaponry that the so-called white man have is such on a far level. You know, Daniel's 12th chapter, Daniel's 4 and 12 tells us that knowledge shall increase. And the blessing pursuant to Genesis 27 of the sword has been given to Esau. So the weaponry that the so-called white man has, I mean, this man has heart attack guns. He has guns that can fucking disintegrate your body and leave your clothes. All that type. He got stuff that we can't even, on no way, your AK-47, even your bazooka, or rocket launcher, whatever you have, there's nothing you could really do to combat this. It's gone so far to the point that the Most High is going to literally have to give us spiritual power to deal with some of the shit that the so-called white man has, because it's far advanced in terms of technology, and that's a part of the Lord doing that is to increase his pride, right? To make him be so boastful and prideful enough that he thinks he's gonna fight against the Lord Son himself, Yahushua himself. So that's a great deal of pride. That's the first nation to ever have done or think something like this, and a part of that is the weaponry that they have that has lifted them up in that way. Verse 6, in all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path. So this is why there's scriptures like don't give a thought, all these sorts of things, because, you know, pursuant to Psalms 34 and 7, if you just have the fear of Yahweh Shem Yahushua, the angels are encamped around you, there's a hedge about you, and nothing could come against you. You know, remember, Satan doesn't have the power to take your life. Only the Lord does. 1 Samuel 2 and 6. So if a man perishes in the truth, then pursuant to the book of 2 Thessalonians, the 4th chapter, the latter verses, the dead in Yahweh shall rise first, then you're gonna be crowned automatically, you know. But leave that up to the Lord. Be not wise in thy own eyes, and that's what those guys are coming across. They're taking their own paths, right? These guys that it's not just them in the picture, but Johanna does stuff like that. And whichever camp is really pushing that heavy, they're wise in their own eyes. You know, like I said, there's nothing really wrong with you buying a firearm to defend yourself or have it in your house as some sort of protection. I don't think that if a man owns a firearm, it's a lack of faith or anything. You know, you know, maybe you're in a situation, you know, you're out in the woods somewhere, I don't know, you rather have it than not have it, right? So that's not the end of the world, you know. Just don't do anything foolish, like those individuals did, which is broadcasting to the world that you own a firearm. It's almost a like come at me type of vibe that was given, you know. Stupid. It says, be not wise in thy own eyes, fear the Lord and depart from evil, right? And that definitely was an evil ass vibration. Niggas like that, mean mugging, grills out, and there was nothing spiritual about that. There was nothing spiritual about that, you know. So they definitely were going off with that, you know. Again, in terms of that presentation and the act that they were doing, you know. So all brothers are edified, you know. I'm not gonna say if any brothers do have guns and grace. That's not for me to disclose. I don't know. I don't care about that. I'm just saying if you do have that and you're using that and you have it to your own private business, that's your own private business. What some motherfuckers did was way off the belt, and no one in Israel, really, if you're in a grave millstone or not, all right, should be condoning themselves in that incriminating manner, you know. All right, with that, I'm going to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ba'ashem Ruach HaKodesh, double honor to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, which you well. Salutations to the hopeful elect, you Akim to Zadakim, who do this in the utmost truth and sincerity. Shalom until next time. We're almost out of here. Shalom.